The San Francisco 49ers just got great NFC West news, and despite my own bias toward my own division and always thinking that going into the season, my division is going to be so tough. A lot of times I think this is going to be the toughest division in the NFL. And a lot of times, most of the time actually, I'm wrong. And that's okay. That's just a bias that I have and a problem I have to deal with. But after looking at the overall picture, I thought you guys might be interested to see what I'm seeing. This very interesting perspective, several very interesting perspectives coming forward as we look at the overall picture. In this video, we're going to be looking at the NFC picture, the potential road to the Super Bowl, and how the NFC West might actually be an easier division than I thought. If you're new here, I'm Nate. We are talking the San Francisco 49ers on this channel every single day, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the action. The good news is this: the bookies have picked the Rams at plus 112 to make the playoffs. Not win the division, to make the playoffs. Plus money odds to make the playoffs. Meaning that the bookies are feeling 51-49 about the Rams making it happen this season. And this goes despite ending the season on a 7-1 run. This goes despite Puka Nacua showing and proving to be an incredible talent. This goes despite all of the individuals on offense, Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, haven't been named yet. All of the individuals they've picked up in the offseason on defense, we'll talk about that later. This, for some reason in my head, it just seemed unlikely to me. It seemed unreasonable to me, but the bookies are doing something and always do something different than what fans do, and so that makes it really interesting in my perspective. I'm going to look at the whole thing, but before we do that, comment below. Do you think the LA Rams make the playoffs? And no, this isn't about, the goal for the 49ers is the Rams don't make the playoffs. That's not the point. But the point is deeper than that. Is this team not as good as I presumed it to be? Let me know what you think, because I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think I probably was going into the season thinking they're better than they really are. For some reason, that stat blew me away. Let me know in the comments if it blows you away or if you think this is completely reasonable and I'm just biased toward my own division and always thinking it's going to be harder than it is. That's just my pessimism coming through. I thought this NFC West fight was going to be real tight, and I still think that the wild card fight for the NFC is going to be pretty tight. But let me know in the comments what you think about it. Firstly, let's take a quick look at the NFC division winners this season as I picked them. I think, I'm going to remove my camera for a second here. I think it's pretty obvious. 49ers are way, far and away the favorites to win the West. I don't see a world in which that doesn't happen apart from severe injury. And hold on. You see me here? Knock on wood. Just before I say that, whew, dangerous to say those words. So then you look at the NFC North, and you see the Lions are for sure the top dogs there. Green Bay are going to have something to say about it. And there's even plenty of argument happening in Chicago right now about how good they're going to be. The Minnesota Vikings, I think, are a sleeper pick. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But I think Lions for sure. So you got 49ers in the West, Lions in the North. Then down at the East, maybe you're splitting hairs a little bit, but in my mind, it's the Cowboys. I don't think it's going to be that tight between the Cowboys and the Eagles, but that's just my personal opinion. The Eagles are still can be a great football team. And then on the South, a lot of folks are picking the Falcons. They got Kirk Cousins now. That helps tremendously. I don't think you're going to see a football in the hand of Michael Penix, but we'll see what happens. Then, of course, you have the Buccaneers and the Saints, who are also going to be staking their claim. So if we're looking at just division winners, I've got Cowboys, Lions, 49ers, and Falcons. Okay? That means that the wild card fight, 3 spots held up there for a handful of teams. Yes, the Seahawks think they're going to be in it. I don't think they probably will be. I don't think they're really going to be. I think they're going to be on the bubble. Coming into the last few games of the season, they'll be on the bubble for the wild card, but they're not going to be a wild card contender for real, I don't think. I think the Rams will be. I think Green Bay and Chicago are going to be strong contenders, assuming everything that the world tends to believe about Chicago ends up being true. We'll see what happens there. A lot of weapons, but rookie quarterback. Who's to say? I think the Vikings are kind of a sleeper. I think they'll end up on the bubble. But for the NFC North division is stacked. This could be a stacked division if the Vikings are as much of a sleeper pick as I think they are. Then, of course, in the South, Tampa Bay and the Saints tie in the regular season last season. Actually, I think I can pull those stats up in a second here. But the Buccaneers and the Saints are both going to like their chances. Okay? And then let's say the Cowboys win the East like I think they will. Then you've got the Eagles there as strong contenders. And I'm just, for the sake of today's argument, going to pretend that the Washington Commanders and the New York Giants don't even exist in this argument, despite the fact that there's definitely an opportunity. There's a world in which the Washington Commanders have a great season. But let's go ahead and look at how last season finished real quick, and we'll come back to this graphic in a second here. I can go ahead and put myself back on the screen now. So, finishing last season, okay, already kind of talked about the NFC North, right? I think the Vikings got better this season. Despite losing Kirk Cousins, I think they have an improved opportunity. Sam Darnold sitting behind Brock Purdy. I know. You're like, seriously? You really believe in that guy? But I actually do think that Sam Darnold would have learned a thing or two with Shanahan. I think he can bring that with him to Minnesota. I think it could be valuable. I mean, you got Justin Jefferson. And that does mean something. He similar to a CeeDee Lamb kind of impact, but better, right? So yeah, I can target him 1,000 times if I have to, and he's going to catch the ball. Okay, the Bears, I mean, my goodness. They've made a lot of moves this offseason. They're really acting like they think that they're playoff contenders. They are, according to the bookies, better chances of being, I think they're minus 110 to make the playoffs this season. So they have better odds than the Rams, which is kind of where this whole conversation started, okay? Buccaneers, Saints, I mentioned. I don't think they're winning the division, so they're both wild card contenders. Then, and Panthers, they weirdly have better odds to making the playoffs than teams like the Denver Broncos, which is kind of wild to me, considering the coaching staff differences alone between those two teams. But anyway, then in the West, of course, I think Rams, Seahawks have lots of weird, big question marks, but are still going to be a good team, a tough team to play against. They're always a tough team. And the Cardinals are going to expect that they're going to be a lot better this season than last season, right? So I do this. I start talking through this, and I start feeling that push, like, man, maybe our division is going to be really hard this season. I don't know if we win out this season. I don't know. So if we're looking at who we think the wild card contenders are, let's count them real quick. So this is just me, but you let me know how you feel in the comments, of course. But Rams, that's 1. Packers, Bears, for sure. Eagles or Cowboys if the Eagles win the division. Tampa Bay, New Orleans Saints. That's 6 right there. That's 6 teams vying for 3 spots, not including, I think the Vikings will be better than people are giving them credit for. I think they're going to be at least a bubble team. The Seahawks are probably going to be a bubble team. Arizona's still a little bit of a dumpster fire, despite Kyler Murray coming back healthy this season. All the other teams there are too many question marks for me to really call them real contenders. So 6 solid teams vying for those spots. You start to understand where the bookmakers are starting to come up with this perspective, why they're starting to think this way. So with a quick deeper look at the Rams, just because I had to do it because I'm thinking, man, if this team's not that good, if this team is not as good as I thought they were, that bodes well for us. Because part of what makes our season look particularly difficult is because of how tough our division is. So then I go and I start looking at the Rams. And I just want to read you what Yahoo Sports just said a couple days ago about the Rams. The Aaron Donald retirement has to be factored into the grade. Of course, offseason grade, Aaron Donald, huge loss. Can't replace him, not with the guys on this current roster. The Rams used 4 of their first 6 draft picks on defensive linemen as they reset. Defensive end Jared Verse was a first-round pick. In the second, the Rams paid a lot to trade up and take defensive tackle Braden Fisk. Los Angeles traded a 2024 fifth-round pick and 2025 second-round pick to move up from 52 to 39. We've seen that in all of the offseason grades as a bad move. All of the offseason grades do not love that. I've read that so many times now. The Rams have never worried about the value picks. Running back Blake Corum was an interesting pick in the third round, of course, out of Michigan. Rams seem to love him already. Free agency, the Rams worked on their offensive line, signing guard Jonah Jackson to a 3-year, $51 million deal to leave the Lions, and re-signing Kevin Dotson on a 3-year, $48 million extension. The Rams added other veterans like Colby Parkinson, Darius Williams, Tre'Davious White, Cameron Curl, and swapped backup quarterbacks by adding Jimmy Garoppolo and letting Carson Wentz leave. Big loss was Donald, but the rest of the offseason wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad, but then you gave them a C- offseason grade, which you know how these grades go. 99% of the time, it's A, B, or C. 99% of the time, that's your offseason grade because teams tend to improve. And D would be you did not improve at all. You got worse, right? So is this truly because you think Aaron Donald was that big of an impact, which I'm sure it will be, a big impact. But then what they did in the draft would suggest they think he's replaceable. Okay, maybe that's a little strong. What they did in the draft was to try and replace him. Let's say that. They did a lot to bolster their defense. They already have amazing offensive weapons. So this is a good football team. This is definitely a good football team, but apparently not as good as I wanted to think, or I tend to think. And as I said earlier, the goal is not to keep the Rams out of the playoffs. Doesn't matter. Our team's so good. Who cares if they make the playoffs? The point is my bias toward always going into a season thinking the division is going to be tough, and I don't know how we get out of it. That's a flawed bias. The San Francisco 49ers are an incredible football team, and the path to the Super Bowl, including 2 games against the Rams, 2 games against the Cardinals, 2 games against the Seahawks, might not be so bad. By the way, while I'm on the topic, might not be so bad. If you want to look at what the bookmakers, and I truly believe, I know that I don't talk what the bookies say all the time because, they're just betting odds. But what I love about the bookmakers, what I love about it is they go, and I'm trying to zoom on the wrong screen. There we go. The bookies are out there trying to make money. So their number one job is to protect their bets, give the best odds they can while also covering their own butts, right? And so I think that they give you kind of more honest and unbiased, unemotional opinions about teams a lot of times, except unless in certain situations they do change, the odds change based on people making picks. Understood. But here's what they have. 49ers and Rams are, quote-unquote, in the picture. Seahawks are very much on the bubble of winning the NFC West. And then Cardinals are plus 1,300 to win the NFC West. No big surprise there. Let's take a quick look here. I got Rams at plus 112 right there. Cardinals are plus 300 to make the playoffs. What are the Seahawks? Let's see. Seahawks are plus 172. Plus 215 is their worst. Okay, plus 215 to make the playoffs. Wowza. That's crazy. I don't know if all of that seems wild to you. It seems like good news to me that the San Francisco 49ers opposition, when we're looking at the tough schedule in front of them, maybe some of those division rival matchups won't be as big of an impact as originally thought, or at least as I originally thought. As always, I'm feeling optimistic about this season. No surprise there. I'm an endless optimist, and I'm excited to get into training camp. Couple days away now for the full training camp to take course. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fun. What a time to be alive.